All right, let's talk about aggregations in DAX. Aggregations are basically how we summarize data, like adding up sales, finding averages, or counting rows. So in DAX, there are two main types, simple aggregators, like sum, average, count, etc. And then we also have iterator functions, like sum x, average x, count ax. We will explore these ones in the next video. But in this one, we will focus on the simple aggregations, the foundation of everything that comes later. So let's start with the simple aggregated functions. I have added a mostly frequently used aggregated functions. We will just do a demo on a simple sales data set. This is a sales data set I have. It's simple one. I have product and quantity information and then the sales. So we will just apply step by step all the simple aggregated functions to make sure you have a complete idea about everything and how you can use these functions in your scenarios. So let's say in my data set, I have sales, and let's say I want to calculate the total revenue. How would we do that? I would just do a sum and I will just provide the numerical uh, column here because obviously it doesn't make sense to do a sum on uh, categorical variable or column containing strings. So that's why we should make sure to do on a numerical number here. So this will give me the total revenue, right? It's simple. And for the average, mean, max, we will do that as well. But one thing, by the way, just to make sure I've added all the limitations there. For the sum one, it would ignore the blanks and it would also affect it by filters. So let's say in your data set you have any filtered apply, then it would only do a sum on the filter data. So it's a filter sensitive. And let's move on to average. So how can I utilize that? For example, I want to calculate the average unit price in my data set. So I would just do an average of unit price, and obviously it would calculate the average, basically the mean of one numerical column. And again, it also ignores blanks. So this is the average unit price in my data set, 4.63. And similarly, we can utilize min and max functions. So just to give you an idea, so let's say I want to calculate the minimum price, right, of my overall data set products. So let's say I would do a min and then I would just pass the unit price here, this one, and it would give me the minimum unit price I have in my data set. So here we have negative. Why is that? Let's look into it. Obviously, we would have some anomaly or some sort of bad data, we can say that we also have to filter out before doing these kind of things. So it sounds like it's either a cancelled product or we have some debt related things here. So it that's why it's just showing that minus and 11 and something unit price. Obviously minus is not a unit price here. uh, but yeah, in terms of minimum, it just calculated the minimum unit price. And similarly, we would calculate the max. It would provide the max unit price as well. So this is what we will do. And so this has provided me the maximum unit price in my data set, right? And let's move on to these functions. These are important functions in terms of performing some calculations and aggregating the data. So let's talk about the count function. And just to make sure, as I've also written, count only works with numerical numbers, or you can say numerical columns, non-blank values. So let's say I want to count, let's say just for your demo purposes, let's say I want to do a count of unit price, right? Obviously, it doesn't make sense, but just to show you the counts behavior. So let's say I refer to sales and then the unit price because unit price is the numerical a number here. This would give me the count of unit price, right? And if you try to do that on a categorical variable or strings, column containing strings, obviously it would not work. So we have another function named count a, and the beauty of this function is that it counts all the data type. Like the data can be in text form or in number or in date, but in the simple count ones, we had a limitation. that this function only counts numerical, but in the COUNTA we don't have this kind of limitation, and obviously it ignores non blank values and only consider non-blanks. So let's say we want to do a count A, let's say of product, or you can say description. I have a description in my data set. So what I would do is I would just do a count A, and then I would refer to the description column in my data set. This is what I have, and it's just giving me a count, and the description is in text, so that's why it's giving me that. And in case I want to use any numerical number, that would also work, right? So let me say that count A, and this would also give me the result, right? The same result that we had previously with this one, right? We have the same values here. So let's move on to count rows. For the count rows, as the function name is suggesting, it's just counting the number of rows. So for example, in my data set, I want to calculate the number of rows. How would I do that? I would just use a count rows function. And here I would apply, I would just add the table, and since it would be counting the data in a table, so that's why it's just asking me to provide a table. But in a previous one, we were using any specific column. But for the count, we are just using the table. So it would just give me the number of rows in my data set, sales data set. And these kind of functions is simple, but these are basically the foundation of your overall analysis. And these simple functions depends upon your very complex formulas. Like for example, you have built some sort of algorithm where you have to add in the denominator the like overall data set rows. So how would you do that? You just need to plug in the count rows and it would automatically do that for you. So this is why like these simple functions are very important to consider. So lastly, we have distinct count here. So just to show you, like previously, I did count on let's say let me just create again to give you an idea again, so you can do a comparison. So let's say I previously did a count of description, and here I use the count a function, or you can use sorry, you would only have to use this one because we have string here. So it just gave me the count of description, and if I show it to you in the data, this is the description I have, and as you guys can see, we have some repetition here, and it's just giving me the count. So let's say if we want to do a distinct count, then how would we do that? Obviously, we would just have to use the distinct count function, and it would uniquely count uh, the number of values in my overall data sets column. So let's say I want to calculate, for example, unique customers. I have customers ID in my data set, but in the customer ID, I have string values, characters, and also the numerical characters. So that's why I would be using, let's say, the string count, and I just want to get the unique customers or simply the number of customers. So I would do a sales, and then I would just provide the customer IDs, and this would give me the unique customers in my data set. It's around 4373. And if I show it to you, this is the customer ID have. Obviously, we have some blanks here, and it would just ignore that as well. And by the way, it's just in numerical form, but it's a best practice to keep uh, keys in string forms, because there is a chances like in the future that this key could have like some sort of string character. So that's why we use that. Otherwise, yeah, so that's your foundation, the simple aggregated functions. They are straightforward, but we will use them in almost every report you build. So in the next video, we will take this a step further and explore the iterative variants, functions like sum x and average x, which let you calculate across rows before aggregating, because that's a limitation in this data set here. The one I think I have written here, the simple aggregated these functions only works with one column. So in the next video, we will talk about iterator aggregated functions, how it can be helpful for us. So yeah, thank you. Bye bye.